Here is how I look pretty and polished in 12 minutes. As you can see, I'm starting off by blotting my brows with setting powder, and I do this because I have really oily skin and I don't like when my eyebrows get shiny throughout the day. So the setting powder definitely prevents that from happening. Now you're going to see me go in and fill in my brows with the Mented Cosmetics Highbrow Precision Pencil in the shade Take a Brow, which is their deepest shade. It's like a black color. And as you can see, I'm just filling it in with short strokes and creating the shape that I want. I was born with really full, thick brows, but over the years, getting them over plucked and over tweezed and over waxed and over everything else at these little Asian salons, I don't have any brows left. So here we are, filling them in. Now, also, I will say that the brows, I feel like they take me the longest to complete, about 3 minutes, and that's including the filling in, the shaping, and the carving out with concealer. Now, something to take note of is how I'm actually applying the brow pencil. Towards the middle and the ends, you can see me using horizontal strokes, and in the beginning of my brows, you can actually see me using vertical strokes. And this is just to give it a more hair-like appearance. And what I also like about this brow pencil is that it comes with a spoolie on the end. So if there's any areas that I feel I've shaded into dark or deep, I can actually use that spoolie and it'll clean that right up. Now, once I'm satisfied with the shape of my brows that I created with the pencil, I go in and clean up and carve out and perfect with a concealer. Now, normally I would use a concealer that's actually lighter than my skin complexion, but this is what I picked out from Mented. This is their concealer in the shade Peak Performance. Now, when I actually picked this concealer out in the summertime, I feel like it would have been the right shade, but since I am paler in the winter, it's now my skin tone. So I'm doing the best I can with what I got. And I am using the I Look Pretty brush from the Pretty Vital brush set. Now, something that I always preach to my clients is that you can use makeup interchangeably. So you don't have to use it for its intended purpose. So what I'm doing is using the bronzer as an eyeshadow. And I'm using the All Eyes on Me brush from the Pretty Vital brush collection. And another example of you can use this product however you want. I'm going in with the Take a Brow eyebrow pencil as my eyeliner. Again, my eyebrow pencil as my eyeliner. So if you're a beginner, if or if you don't have a lot of makeup products, again, you can use everything for everything. You do not have to use it for its intended use. And then after applying, I'm going to smudge it out with the Just Wing It brush from the Pretty Vital brush collection. Now I'm going to apply my Mented Cosmetics foundation stick in the shade T10, and I just apply it all over my face. I am going to blend it out with the Cheeks Snatched brush from the Pretty Vital brush set. I'm not going to lie to you, this is actually their contour brush, but I could not find my foundation brush when I recorded this video, so I am going to be using this brush not only for the foundation, but for my bronzer and contour as well. And I actually really enjoy these foundation sticks. They go on smooth, they're creamy, they blend very easily, and they're buildable. So you can actually take this from an everyday, very natural look to a full glam look as well. And now you're going to see me use that same foundation stick just in the shade T40. And I'm actually going to apply that as like the contour bronzer situation. Again, products being used interchangeably. So this is how I actually apply the contour. Make sure those jaw lines are snatched, those cheeks are snatched, but in an everyday kind of way. And again, just to reiterate, this concealer is too close to my skin shade to be a highlight, but here we are just using one brand for the video. And as you can see, I'm using that same brush to blend out the contour around the perimeters of my face. And using the same brush for the foundation and the contour actually gives it a more seamless finish. Now, this is the only brush that I use that's not in the Pretty Vital brush set. This is the Real Techniques setting brush, and it's my absolute favorite brush to use to blend out my lighter concealer to highlight my face. And if you notice as well, I'm actually tapping it into my skin, not actually like blending it out, if that makes sense. So you tap it in to keep the color. And now I'm going back in with that All Eyes on Me brush to actually blend out the contour for my nose. Now I'm actually going to go in and set my concealer areas. I'm using the Mented Cosmetics Light Slash Tan Setting Powder. And if you notice, after I apply the product to the puff, I swirl it on the back of my hand just to make sure that the product is evenly coated on the puff before I apply it to my face. As you can see, I am setting the areas where I applied the highlights. And then I also carved a little bit of my cheek area as well. And this is just to give it a more snatched look. And here goes that cheek snatch brush again. And the bronzer shade that I'm using is Vacay. Now, after I apply the bronzer, I go in with blush. This blush shade is called Peach for the Stars, and I'm using the Make Me Blush brush from the Pretty Vital brush set. And after that, I use the setting powder to go all over my face for a more seamless blend. And I'm doing this with the Powder Me Down brush from the Pretty Vital brush set. And once I set my face, I go in with my mascara. I'm using Maybelline Falsies. Now I'm lining my lips with the Mented Cosmetics lip liner in the shade Night. As you can see, I do like to do a slight overline in my lips, and I do like to fill in the corners as well because I just prefer a more of an ombre type of look. And I'm filling my lip in with the Mented Cosmetics lip oil in the shade Apple Cider. And I'm using two different setting sprays here. The first one is MAC Fix Plus, and the second is the L'Oreal Infallible. And there you have it, glam in 12 minutes.